Good day, economic students. This video is for the last worksheet you had. So activity 1 says, assume the following figure and answer the questions that follow. In this diagram, you're given two firms, firm A and B, for quantity A and B. And then this line, it shows A's reaction when B does something. Okay, so these are the isoprofits because this symbolizes profit. Okay, so these are the isoprofits. For firm A, to determine the isoprofits, you go to the line of firm A reaction. This is the highest profit realized by firm A. The second profit written A2, third profit A3, A4, and so forth, which is A5. And then for firm B, you go to firm B's reaction curve. For firm B, the highest profit realized is at profit B1. This is the profit. The second one B2, the third one B3, B4, and B5. Okay, and then this is a contraction line. Contraction line is determined by joining the tangency between the isoprofits of the firms. Okay, so where they meet, there's surely a tangency, and at this point here, so you join these points. These points therefore forms a contract line. Okay, now let's go to the questions. Question 1 says, does isoprofit B1 indicate a higher or lower profit position for firm B when compared to isoprofit B2? So they say, does this isoprofit B1 indicate a higher profit when compared to B2, or does it indicate a low profit? So in this case, B1 indicates a higher profit because it is further than the starting point of 0. It's here, so it's the highest. Remember, we said for firm B, the highest profit realized is this one, and the lowest realized is this one, which is B5. Okay, so at this point, B1 is the highest. It indicates the highest profit. Then let's go to question 2. Indicate the Carnot solution. Okay, the Carnot solution is a point where the two firms are at equilibrium, right? So they are at equilibrium at point E. This is the point. At point E, firm A realizes a profit of A3. It is shown by the isoquant A3, and then firm B realizes a profit of B3. This is the point, the isoprofit at this point. Okay, and then the next question says, which firm is the sophisticated leader at point D? We go to point D. At point D, let's first compare the profits, and then we can determine which one is better than the other. Okay, at point D, we see that firm B realizes a profit of B5. Firm A realizes a profit of A1. And we said at the beginning that firm A realizes the highest profit at A1 because we looked at this reaction, and in this reaction the highest profit here is A1. Okay, and then followed by A2, A3, and so forth. So firm A here realizes the highest profit, while firm B realizes the lowest profit, and the highest profit for firm B is at this point ISO profit B1. So in other words, at this point, the leader, the sophisticated leader, will be firm A, because firm A realizes the highest profit at this point. Then says, explain briefly the profit position of the two firms when firm A is sophisticated leader. Okay, we say when firm A is a sophisticated leader, we look at point D. We said that at point D, firm A realizes profits of A1, and B realizes profits of B5. Okay, this is a point where firm A is the sophisticated leader. The next question, explain briefly how the EE curve is derived. The contraction curve is derived. I said at the beginning, the contraction curve is derived by joining the tangency points of the two firms. So you join the tangency points. There's a tangent here, tangent also at this point, at this point, at this point. So when you join these points, you are forming a contraction line or contraction curve. Explain briefly why point C will result in greater industry profit and not point E. At point C, there will be greater industry profits because, okay, at this point C, firm A realizes A3 profits, okay, and then firm B realizes B2 profits, okay? And then when we move to point C, at point C, still firm A realizes A3, there's no change, but firm B will then shift from point C to point E, from B1 to, from B2 to B3 ISO profit, meaning that they increase their profits at this point. They are better off at this point. The firm B is better off at this point also, at this ISO profit given this point. So at point C, they realize B2 profits, but given the point E, they would rather move for better profits. They'd rather settle for better profits at point E, because point E is better than point C. But from A, there's still no change. Okay, here it says because at point E, firm A is in the same profit position as at point C. At the point E, B moves to a better ISO profit curve. At least one firm's profit can be increased without harming the other firm's profit. Okay, now let's go to activity 2. And then activity 2 says assume the following questions relating to the shareholder management model. Okay, this one you can also refer to your textbook. It is there on your textbook. I'm not sure about the page, but it's just before the growth in demand. Just before that. On that page, you'll see it. Okay, let's do this one. Changes in the financial. Okay, number 1 says changes in the financial security constraint will affect growth in capital, which is denoted by GC, or growth in demand, GD. So the answer is growth in capital. Anything that has to do with the financial security constraint or financial security on its own, it affects the capital. Okay, and then the profit margin, PM, is used as a proxy for both dash and dash, which is the answer here will be M and R&D, which is in this case it's marketing and research and development. Profit margin is used for marketing and research and development in firms. Okay, and then it says assume that the overall financial security constraint increases. What impact would it have on job security? Okay, when the constraint of financial security is high, it means that there's a limit of financial security, right? So when it is high, it means that the job security will be reduced, it will be low. When you're free to a certain extent in your finances, it means that tomorrow you might experience a job loss. So job security will be less when the constraint for financial security is high. And then number 4 says growth in capital is equals to positively or negative or non-monotonic correlated with diversification rate. At this point, the growth in capital, is non-monotonic correlated to diversification rate. This means that the growth in capital is not related in any way with diversification rate. It cannot be expressed in functions or formulas or calculations in relation to diversification. So the answer here is non-monotonic. Okay, and then number 5 says GD, which is growth in demand, is equals to positively or negatively or non-monotonic correlated with diversification rate. Therefore, in this case, it will be positively correlated. It means that there's a positive relationship between growth in demand and a rate of diversification. And then the last question says, if financial security constraint is high, the managers are risk averters or risk takers. In this case, when the financial security constraint is very high, it means that in future there can be job losses. So these managers are taking risk. So in this case, the answer will be the managers are risk takers. Okay? And then question 3 says, assume a cartel. Answer the following questions. Explain briefly the manner in which cattle price will be set. Okay, so let's first determine or explain what a cartel is. So a cartel is an association of suppliers with the purpose of maintaining prices at a high level and restricting competition, right? So when there's a cartel, when firms form a cartel, their aim is to maintain high prices. Okay, so in a cartel, there's an agency that determines the quantity and price in the market. Therefore, there will be also allocation of quantity between firms, and the profits will be shared amongst everyone in that cartel. Okay, so to set prices also, they use cost data from firms as well as demand data for the market, or for the market to do this by summing the firm's marginal cost curves and then setting the price and quantity at the intersection of marginal revenue and marginal cost. Okay, so the second question says, assume an increase in the marginal cost structure. What impact will it have on, number one, cattle prices? Number two, the quota to be allocated to the members of the cartel. Okay, in this case, remember we said in a cartel, in the association, there'll be an agency that determines price and quantity in the market, and then prices will be shared amongst the members of the cartel. So if the marginal cost structure is high, the prices in the market will have to be high to accommodate or be able to pay off the marginal cost structures. So the prices in the market will be high, but the quantity shared amongst the members will be low, because it's expensive now to produce additional product. Okay, so when there's an increase in marginal cost structure, the price will be high, but the quantity will be low. Okay, you'll get the next video for activity 4 to 6.